All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Trailhead once again. This episode is awesome. We got an amazing guest, Mike Glavin from Zenbivy. He's the owner and creator and an amazing guy. I've been able and super fortunate to be able to rock a lot of their gear for the last 2 years or so and had some amazing sleeps. And some of my favorite sleeps are actually in their sleep system. So without further ado, I wanted to intro Mike to you. And Mike, go ahead and just let us know a little bit about yourself and where you're from and a little bit about your company.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. I'm Mike Glavin. I'm from Zenbivy. I'm actually sitting here in my basement in Spokane, Washington, which is not exactly where we're located now. Where Zenbivy is located in Bellingham on the other side of the state. And I started Zenbivy for 2017. We launched on Kickstarter. So 2018 was our year in business. So this makes us 8 years in business. Next year will be our 9th year in business. So I still think of us as like a startup, but it's now been long enough that it's no longer really the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So I guess you're almost at that 10, not a 7-year itch, but there's like that 10-year thing that people say, like when you get to 10 years, you're like semi-officially an adult in the business world or whatever.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like if you reach a point where you're feeling, but when we started, we did have our 10-year plan, right?
Yeah.
We sort of started out with, and we are still working on the 10-year plan. Actually, we're in year 8 and we exceeded our 10-year plan already, unfortunately. So we've been one of the few that's been fortunate to continue to be healthy and grow through all kind of recent ups and downs.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure. Yeah. So before I get too deep into exactly what you guys create, I love the fact that I had heard your story a little bit, and on your website you have a little bit of your history of, what you did before Zenbivy. So why don't we let everybody know kind of what you did before Zenbivy? Because I know you were working for MSR, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah, I started at MSR in 1994. And I worked there for MSR and then Cascade Designs when Cascade Designs bought MSR.
Yeah.
So MSR was not part of Cascade Designs when I first started. And then while I worked there, we were bought by Cascade Designs, and then I worked for Cascade Designs a couple years. And then right after I left Cascade Designs in 2002 is when actually I started working on the very first Zenbivy prototypes. Even though I didn't come back to it again until 15 years later in 2017. The very first ones were done then. The whole idea of a quilt connected to the mattress with a sheet is we were prototyping back in 2002. And since then, I've worked in a variety of different places, a lot of different brands that you would have heard about. Most recently, while I was working at Sierra Design, I also did work at Sierra Designs.
Yeah.
While working at Zenbivy, I worked for Sea to Summit and helped them with their tent launch. They recently got into, well, I guess it's not that recently now, because that was early on in Zenbivy. Sea to Summit, Sierra Designs. I came back and worked for Cascade Designs a couple of times. Stanley Thermos, when I started working for, Stanley's now $1 billion company.
Yeah.
When I started working on the Stanley brand, they had 3 customers, Walmart, Kmart, and Target. And it was that green sort of thing. And then with those cups and whatever, they've just gone berserk these last couple of years.
I know, they've been crazy. My kids all have a Stanley, and now every year it changes to some other thing. Now it's an Odawalla or whatever so now I inherit all the untrendy stuff that my kids have.
I worked for, that was another one that I worked at twice. Once early on, the company that owns, I think they still own Stanley, is PMI, Pacific Market International.
Yeah.
We started originally with them with Stanley, and then I came back several years later and did another stint with Stanley. They'd moved to another building and worked with them a couple of times, a
Yeah.
lot of times on contract. So I've been doing outdoor gear basically since, like the mid 90s, I
Yeah.
guess.
So
So
how did you get into, was it just straight out of school that you were just like, you went into it, or how did it come
I,
about?
I worked out of school. I was a journalism and television broadcast major. I worked at
Okay.
CNN by my wife. We quit CNN and moved into a van before van life was cool, and
Yeah.
we ended up here. And I started working at MSR in customer service for $6.33 an hour. I
Oh, wow.
remember. And I still remember the pay rate from back then. And during the interview, there was a stove that they still have, called the XGK, and it had these little floppy legs. And like
Mhm.
during the interview, I guess the part of it, they said, if you could improve a MSR product, what would you do? And I was like, oh, I would make, this change to these legs. And it was, it got me the job. And what was most interesting about them, they were already doing something very similar
Yeah.
to solve that same kind of problem. So I was kind of just into the product end of things, but
Yeah.
basically my career was mostly in sales, um, sales and marketing and product line management. But a lot of the times that I would, take contract work or whatever, it would be sales.
Yeah.
So Zenbivy doesn't sell to retailers. So a lot of my expertise is in selling in the wholesale channels and you'll notice when I started my own business, I don't do any of that.
Yeah. No,
Started it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
um,
I always watch a lot of, and I say this all the time, but I watch a lot of Shark Tank. And as soon as, someone says, "Oh, we want to get into retail," and the sharks always freak out, and they're like, "Don't do it." And like, big box retail, they're like, "Don't do it," because most of the time it's not a good idea.
not at our stage for sure.
Yeah.
I think, ultimately, I think my belief is that every sleeping bag should be a Zenbivy.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would envision it in its grandest, place, being everywhere,
Yeah.
but not now. I
Yeah.
mean, off into the distant sort of future.
Yeah.
People ask me, when is Zenbivy going to go to retail? And I say, well, I don't know. Ask the next owner. We'll have to ask that guy,
Yeah.
whoever it's
Yeah.
going to be.
So then how did you go from working in sales and everything else to kind of like, what was your, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this product. What was that aha moment that made you, build
There
Zenbivy?
wasn't really a aha moment. I um, had started working on this like I said, back in 2002.
Yeah.
And then just before Zenbivy, I worked at Sierra Designs, and we revamped all of the products that Sierra Designs and redid, in addition to their whole tent line, the entire sleeping bag line, where we really started exploring these idea of the bed. They have a product called the backcountry bed,
Uh-huh.
uh, patented. I'm one of the named inventors on that patent for the Sierra Designs backcountry bed. And um, the whole idea of making beds started back when I was at Cascade Designs. They made
Yeah.
mattresses, and they didn't want to be in sleeping bags. And I said, forget about sleeping bags. We're going to do beds.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that meant or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just this idea that sleeping in a bag is kind of not the way to do it. So
Yeah.
we explored it at Sierra Designs. I remember wanting, and I was the leader, but you have to work within a team. And I remember wanting to go in like the two-piece direction, and just it was not well accepted.
Yeah.
Uh, so we never did that. And so basically, when I left Sierra Designs, um, I was like, I'm gonna just go out on my own. And it had kind of been festering for a number of years, and um, the world had changed. In 2017, there
Yeah.
was Kickstarter and Shopify, and you can basically start your store for $29 a month. I don't know how
Yeah.
much now, but maybe that's $49.
Yeah. Yeah. But still
Offer
super cheap, right?
it's not, everything is very scalable, and
Yeah.
there is no mainframe, and I think there's no huge investment that really needed to be made, and so um, you can do the types of things that I'm doing now, and like you said, the smaller vendors, and um, that's where the energy is in the outdoor segment right now. And it's because all these people are operating outside of all of those traditional constrictions. And the
Yeah.
people who are operating within those traditional constrictions don't know what the hell to do about it, I don't think. Because
Yeah.
but near as I can tell, the old wholesale retail world is doing exactly what the old wholesale retail world always did, and they're not really in our categories responding to the reality that customers want to engage differently than they
Yeah.
used to. And
Yeah.
that engagement isn't happening in retail stores anymore. It's happening on YouTube
Yeah.
and
No. Yeah.
these other platforms where people are able to connect with one another.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how the real retail world is going to respond to that. The other thing about direct to consumer for Zenbivy is we offer, we have an ultralight quilt. I just realized there's 80 between the 4 colors and 3 sizes. Next year, we're going to have 4 different choices of fill,
Yeah.
2 temperature ratings. There's 80 different SKUs, right?
Yeah.
This, a specialty custom item that's really that you can't really support in a traditional retail environment. It's kind of a custom buy.
Yeah.
And a large dollar buy when you're buying high end down,
Yeah.
that get expensive. And, yeah, so for us, that just, business wise, I think makes sense. Plus, I just like selling them one at a time.
Yeah.
The customers come to us, we deal with them one at a time, we sell them
Yeah.
one at a time, we size them one at a time, we kind of, um, and then are able to, keep that, once you've got that customer, you can keep them happy through the whole, um, experience.
Yeah.
Whereas in a lot of the old methods of distribution, it's lost where, I got it at such and such retailer and such happened to it. And,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, that's
No.
why
Yeah.
why don't I see a lot of terrible reviews about Zenbivy out on the internet? And it's like, because we pretty much just take care of people.
No.
um,
Yeah.
Through a regular process. If you buy a bed with a comfort rating of 35 degrees and then you go out and you're not comfortable in 35 degrees, we work with you till you are comfortable
Yeah.
in 35 degrees. Maybe that's a warmer quilt, maybe that's a different mattress. We kind of um, try and, treat each customer as, unique
Yeah.
sort of through the process. So,
I feel
um,
like you get that when you do it that way too, you have that satisfaction when it's one person at a time kind of a feeling is you it's like I shoot a ton of weddings and I love that satisfaction of them is so excited when they finally get their images. And for you, it's like you get it and they're like, oh, I had the best sleep I've ever had, or I stayed warm, or it was comfortable. It was because I love the materials you guys use, right? So we just went on a trip, my wife and she used my Zenbivy system, and I was using another system because I was shooting for another company. And that was the first time she used the Zenbivy because I always used the Zenbivy and I always just gave her like a mummy bag that I had because she didn't really understand it. And after I gave it to her, especially with the mattress, the comfort of the mattress, she was like, she won't give it back. And I was like, I'm just glad I have 2 systems so I can, now let her use it too. But she
it
loves
has
it.
that impact on a lot of people. There are some people that are like, I'd love to get in my mummy bag and zip
Yeah.
it up. And I feel like swaddled or
Yeah.
whatever. But that's not most people.
Yeah.
Most people are, struggle in the backcountry you just want to sleep really in the same position that you sleep in your bed at home.
Yeah.
And the more that it's different from that, the more that you're kind of awake and
Yeah.
sort of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So it just allows that. So for a lot of people who've really struggled, it's like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
changed life. We get those on one end of the spectrum, like I could go backpacking again. I could never sleep. And I was one of those who really can't sleep in the mummy bag. I don't
Yeah.
want to be zipped up in the mummy bag. I'd almost rather shiver than, get
Yeah.
all packed into something that's kind of too small. And
Yeah.
I'm also, big.
Yeah.
And back in the day, they only made sleeping bags longer,
Yeah.
really make them any, bigger.
Wider. Yeah.
Well, now we just make one that's 6 inches longer. We make the foot box a little bit longer,
Yeah.
but they're really kind of small. So
Yeah.
we noticed that with our sizing. Our size regular is kind of like um, an old mummy bag, fits to 5'10",
Yeah.
kind of, or 6 foot, a regular sort of
Yeah.
size. It's really, when we've sized it, it's sized around the average size woman. But for us, that when we fit the average size woman, that's kind of like the old school 6 foot tall
Yeah.
unisex bag kind of size. And then we do large, and then we do extra large. And
Yeah.
people, are sized differently. And a lot of people know when they need more. Some people, like, who are sprawlers or whatever, are like, I'm going to get the bigger one. And so we just give a lot more options
Yeah.
mm, than people had traditionally gotten in sleeping bags, which, in terms of sizing. Between the sizes of the sheets and the quilts, there's, I don't know, 9 different size options that you
Yeah.
can get with your Zenbivy. So maybe a few too many. It's only 3 quilts and 3 sheets, because you have to fit the sheet to
Yeah.
the mattress, but that changes the size, obviously, of
Yeah.
the whole sort of system when you go to a bigger mattress. So
Yeah. So speaking into that, then, what was something when you started it that was maybe really hard to figure out at the beginning? Because I know, just watching the evolution of the product, you had you and I believe you still have it, but like, you had a full length sheet, and then you went to an ultralight, half sheet. And so for those who are listening right now, like, you have the quilt, right? And then you have the sheet, there's the pillow, and then there's also the mattress,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Am I referring to the sheet is the thing that goes on the mattress, right? That's called the
Yeah, the
sheet.
sheet is the thing in our system. The
Yeah.
mattresses are similar to other mattresses. Our
Yeah.
pillow are similar to other pillows, just in terms of, we have a
Yeah.
long story about how they're differing better, but they're, comparable. The thing that really makes a Zenbivy stand out is the sheet, really, because the
Yeah.
top quilt is not that much different than other backpacking top quilts. So if you know what a backpacking, I guess, top quilt maybe makes me
Yeah.
sound or whatever, but you know what I'm talking about. Backpacking quilts, the top of ours is basically just very similar to other backpacking
Yeah.
quilts. Really makes it different is there's a fitted sheet that attaches the quilt to the mattress. And the really hard thing to figure out was the the Zenbivy is not attached to the mattress at the edge of the quilt. It's attached at the top of the quilt.
Yeah.
And that's the non-obvious part. And that's the part that makes it work, because, like, that original bed that I made back in 2002, we were still doing like everybody else and attaching the edge of the quilt to the edge of the
Yeah.
mattress. You do that, it has to be a circle size that you can roll up
Yeah.
onto your side. And when you're on your side and it's attached on the edge down to the mattresses, it's too large and creates these two cold spots. And
Yep.
so it was never as warm as a mummy bag. You had to have this extra space. So, and what
Yeah.
a Zenbivy does is it attaches, the sheet attaches with those side panels up onto the top of the quilt. So the quilt can just float around. The edges are free to wrap to snugly around you as you want. They just can't fall off the edge of the mattress. And that was the sort of eureka moment
Yeah.
of the Zenbivy bag, because that's what makes it work.
Yeah.
So, and now, like you said, with the half length ones and the uninsulated hoods, they're, our uninsulated hood, that half length sheet is 3 ounces. Straps that you'll get with a lot of backpacking quilts are like 1 ounce. So
Yeah.
for a 2 ounce difference, you basically take your quilt, with the straps, you can reduce some of the drafts, but with the sheet, you eliminate all of the drafts.
Yeah.
So a few extra ounces, you can make your quilt completely draft free. So,
Yeah. I mean,
oh,
it's the biggest thing for most people is they don't think about the sleep is the biggest part of camping. Like, when I first started backpacking, I tried to go, super, super ultralight, and I was just having bad sleep, and I had the terrible next day. And now I sleep really, really well, and sleep is so important. And I was getting drafts all the time. So when I started using the Zenbivy, I was like, there's pros and cons to everything, but I feel like a couple extra ounces for me to stay warm without drafts, because that little bit of draft, that'll just wake you up in the middle of the night when you're in the cold and stuff like that. And it's not fun to try to fall back asleep again a lot of times when you're out.
Yeah, a lot of people can sleep with the quilts. And they, like people, if you spend enough time doing it, do you know who
Yeah,
Andrew is? You've ever
yeah,
heard the guy, Andrew
yeah,
Skirka? Um, he told me, well, I just trained myself, to just like not move around at night
yeah,
or when, which I suppose you can do if you're sleeping out at night,
yeah,
and doing, like, a long through hike or these 1,000-mile sort of things. But most of us aren't doing that and don't want to retrain ourselves to
yeah,
kind of keep under the quilt. And so it just allows a lot more people just to sleep a lot more naturally. For I still think now that the vast majority of people who are buying Zenbivis, it's not their first.
yeah,
It's like we tried something else and we're like,
yeah,
ooh, I don't want this. This is
yeah,
more what I'm sort of looking for. And now that we've sort of started focusing on that higher end ultralight customer, it's only
yeah,
in the last couple of years that we've really started to focus there, even though from the very beginning, we've been that design that we talked about allows you to be as warm and as light as a mummy bag.
yeah,
Now we're actually warmer and lighter than a mummy bag, but back then it was like, that was the key to make this bed style
yeah,
system be as warm and as light as a mummy bag. Cause prior to that, like, everything else that was attached to a mattress was heavier.
yeah,
It had to be for whatever reason.
yeah,
And so it was never really a mummy kind of killer design. And we sort of started there. Um, and only reason then kind of really, earned our spot as being the most comfortable, and then started brought that more and more towards the higher end, I
yeah,
suppose, of the market. The expert customers I've learned over time are the hardest to go and sell new ideas to,
yeah,
because they're the expert. So if you tell them what a different something is different than what they firmly believe, they're the ones who fight the most,
yeah,
right? I'm the expert and this is how we do
yeah,
things.
exactly.
So a lot of this type of innovation, like a Zenbivy that really changes the whole experience, those types of changes. Well, I can think in other industries, 29-inch mountain bike wheels is a
Yeah,
good example. Of ones that's, like the elite riders were like, oh yeah, well, that's great for easy trail riding, but it only has to trickle sort of
yeah,
up some of those types of ideas. If you're old, you'd remember the shape skis.
yeah, oh yeah,
That was back in the days when it's like, make my ski shorter. My whole self-worth is measured by the length of the ski,
yeah,
right? You can't. So
yeah,
they the very, experts were the most resistant to that kind of technology that benefits everyone.
yeah,
Um, kind of. So that's why we took that approach, right?
yeah,
Is just understanding that, experts have to get there on their own, but for the average person who's like, oh yeah, I just want to, people though, they want to sleep comfortably
yeah,
out there. Um, it's like that middle, it's like, I was there. That's that person who's trying to go light and, trying to balance that
yeah,
whole, I don't want it to be heavy either.
yeah.
Uh, so,
So
um,
what was something that was like, I guess it wouldn't be the weight thing, but it would probably be more thinking in the, like, what was really hard at the beginning that you look back now and that was actually probably could have been an easier decision to make in order to kind of refine your product? Like, would it be cutting weight, or the with the attachment system on the side with the loops, or
no, I don't think so. I think, the very first design, at the end, I was very conscious of it's a strange thing when you, to this day, like you look at a Zenbivy, even if you're used to it, you're like, wait, what is that? Right.
Yeah.
Especially the sheet on the mattress.
Yeah.
It's not what people are used to. And so, I remember at the very end of the design, the hood and those side panels, if you look at a Zenbivy, they very much look like they're all one thing, like a
Yeah.
yoke that's going around the top or whatever. But it was only at the very end of the design that the hood and the side panels joined.
Yeah.
And reason that I did that was to make them feel like they were just one thing, and there wasn't these, it looked, even just to make
Yeah.
it look a little more unified and a little more, I guess, friendly.
Yeah.
Because the original, people would look at it, and there were certain people who looked at it and was like, oh, I get it. Right. It's like you're, zipping your quilt onto your sheet and the hood's on
Yeah.
the sheet, to keep your, head
Yeah. Your
warm.
head warm.
So yeah, that was probably during the development, like one of the last phases that I think was, kind of putting it all together, making it look unified.
Yeah.
Original one had 2 layers of fabric even on those side panels to make it look like there was an inside and an outside. So there were
Oh.
design choices we made there that actually were adding to the weight.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, it's got to be a mummy bag. The quilt thing is going to be down the road, but
Yeah.
at the beginning, if you're going to make a bed, and it's got to be as warm and as light as a mummy bag. And if it's not as warm and as light as a mummy bag, you're never going to obsolete the mummy bag.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was really heavily focused. I knew that we could make it lighter and lighter and lighter down to the quilt, you know, end of things at some point, but it was really just making sure that we were, warmer and lighter than a mummy bag, because that's really what it's going to take for you to go, oh, is it better to be in a
Yeah.
Zenbivy? Because the more it's heavier, the more you ask yourself that question. The quilt customers ask that now. Do I want this 1-ounce sheet, right? That
Yep.
that blocks some of the drafts, or do I
Yeah.
want, here are these 1-ounce straps, or do I want this that eliminates all of the drafts? And is that 2 ounces, worth it for me?
Yeah.
For most people, the 2 ounces is worth it. So
Oh, I think if people could just, you're always going to have, like, not gram weenies, but, people that are just like, doesn't matter how much better it is. They're like, it's a few ounces more. They're like, it's not even a question. They're not even going to go for it. But I think once you try it out, you you're like, who cares about 2 ounces or 3 ounces when your sleeps?
I think it's funny because I think there's less and less of that these days, of people who are
Yeah.
just, there's, the, the ultralight customers nowadays take chairs,
Yeah.
and which I
Yeah.
still,
I got one right behind me.
yeah,
Here.
I still don't get the chair, right? I'm like, God, the last thing I would bring is sort of like, there's a lot of other things that I would bring. I'd bring the beer maybe before I brought
Yeah.
the chair and sit on the phone. But the chair to a lot of people is like, changes the experience.
Yeah.
And so that becomes kind of part of the experience. And the other things have gotten kind of light enough that, the reality is, for most backpackers, that if you're carrying an 8-pound backpack or a 12-pound backpack, it's not that much. When they're that light, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of difference.
Yeah.
It's like, I realize every ounce sort of counts, but not really. The difference between
Yeah.
1 pound and 2 pounds is not very significant. So the higher up you get, the more they sort of add on to one another. And now I think most people are able to achieve a realistic base weight easily in the 10 to 15-pound
Yeah.
range. And even if you're at, so I think people are recognizing, going much lighter, what am I getting?
Yeah.
Am I more comfortable on the trail? And I do think that people now are figuring out that, the reason you go lightweight is not so that you can perform some much
Yeah.
better. It's just more comfortable, and the overall trip is more comfortable and more
Yeah.
fun here when it's light.
Yeah.
So the light is about the comfort,
Yeah.
right?
And
Uh,
it
stuff for
really depends on your
a
trip
lot of
too.
stuff for people who are just like, what's the most I can do with the lightest I could go without dying or really, right? Suffering gap here, just like, who want to push that level of minimalism,
Yeah.
but it's good. There are those people who are necessary because they kind of create that tip of the spear. And
Yeah.
then I do think that most people know, well, yeah, I could do that, or I could,
Yeah.
step one little level and have it be so much better. And sleep is, you can't sleep night after night after night, or not sleep night after night after night. Andrew Skirke again told me he went for one of those fastest known times on a
Yeah.
trail. He brought some really light sleep system and didn't. He said it was the worst decision he made because he didn't sleep.
Yeah.
And he was like, God, I could have brought however much more weight and slept that whole time and performed so much better. So
Yeah.
sleep is sort of an essential part of it. And it's the number one reason people stop when they go backpacking
Yeah.
is um, not, oh, it rained and I didn't have a good time or whatever. It was, I didn't sleep well,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. It was cold, or I was on a lump, it was
Yeah.
slow, whatever it was, or whatever. You wake up, did it work or not?
Yeah.
So
My arm always falls asleep on the Nemo pad that I have. And when I first got your sleeping pad and I slept in it, I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, my arm didn't fall asleep
the
because
stretch,
of
what is it? A flex air? Flex air?
the flex air. Yeah.
Yeah, that can help. The I think it's that flex fabric. We have
Yeah.
an like that doesn't have that flex fabric. It'd be interesting for you to try it and see if your arm goes to sleep on it. But
Oh yeah.
I think that flex fabric evens out some of that for a lot of people, and makes it so your shoulders don't go to sleep. I have the same problem, right? And anybody who kind of lays on their side or whatever is like, oh, that's like,
Yeah.
or who's of any age,
Yeah.
uh, and used to doing that. So that can help. The key with those mattresses is getting them hard enough,
Yeah.
right? The little bubble technique that we use on um our new mattresses that are, they have like the softness comes from those little pockets of, you know, air, not
Yeah.
the softness of the mattress. And so you really need to get those mattresses very hard for them to be, provide enough support, because those little bubbles are
Yeah.
very soft, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When
yeah,
my
that,
wife was sleeping in it, I told her because she went and set it up in the tent and I was like, oh, this has to be harder. And she was like, oh, I don't want it to be too hard. And I was like, no, 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 the harder the better with it. And then when I blew it up, she was like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah.
yeah, it's counterintuitive with that sort of style, because with the tubes, we also do the light bed that has like
Yeah.
the vertical tubes on it. You can soften that up a little bit by letting a little bit of air out of there, but
Yeah.
the ones with we call them bubble tops, and then that's got our
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
Remember, we
Yeah.
refer to them, those bubble ones. The softness really comes isn't, it's kind of predetermined for you. So if you definitely want them to be firmer, because they're just squishier by design, and
Yeah.
you can bottom out a lot easier. So they have to be firmer.
Yeah.
Um, when that style of them, that flex stuff, we were the first to do it on I think we were the first to do it on any backpacking mattress. Our original flex, which was a self-inflating, and then the Flex Air was definitely the first one that had that four-way stretch knit
Yeah.
on the air mattress. And now Thermarest is doing it, and they're that big orange
Yeah.
pinkish
That big, huge, it's like 4 inches
that
thick or
has
something like that.
stretch,
Yeah.
and a lightweight, kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
Neat also now has stretch. And I think any customers who are getting that, you know, those are the ones I think you want to focus on, are the ones with that stretch
Yeah.
fabric, because I think that those help almost more than anything else, because it just like, you're not getting that boardy
Yeah.
pressure. So anyway, that's been my experience too, is fabric for that shoulder thing.
So going back to a few questions about your business then. So one question I love to always find out is And you were in the industry for a while, but you were working for somebody. And then once you created your own company, what was one thing about running an outdoor business that nobody warned you about?
Oh God, no, I felt warned. All the stuff. Um, you do learn about, when you're working for someone else, you're like, oh, I need these guys for, right?
Yeah.
And then once you start on your own, you realize, oh, here's all the things I needed those guys
Yeah.
for. Um, so there are areas that you're just that you're having to take care of all of it.
Yeah.
And I gotta worry about how I'm gonna go get money and finance this. And um for me, like learning things like the finance tools or whatever, I had to learn those. I did a lot on lynda.com. Do you know what lynda.com
Uh-huh.
is?
Yeah. Yeah. Linda. Yeah.
I'd be like, Facebook ads. I was the ad guy. I mean, I did
Yeah.
all advanced Facebook advertising, QuickBooks Online,
Yeah.
a Shopify store. You're just learning sort of, all of that. And I think it could be a little bit overwhelming. Um, and but it's all doable.
Yeah.
Uh, it's I feel like what helped me through those earlier phases was, I know I can do these things. I've been
Yeah.
doing it for a long period of time. And then I know other small businesses launch this way and operate with nothing and do just fine because I can see them out there.
Yeah.
And one of the, I don't mean to insult anybody by this, but what I would say is, stupider people than me are being successful at this right now.
Yes.
Right. So no matter what this sort of challenge is, there's got to be some way
Yeah.
to kind of,
Yeah.
get past it. And, so for me, it was I'd been, in sales and marketing and product. So anything that wasn't sales and marketing and product, I had to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
But luckily I'd, advanced enough in a lot of these organizations, and had P&L responsibility and understood, the basics of finance and how
Yeah.
the whole operation really needs to work to be, sort of profitable. I did have that level of expertise. So the reality is I was fortunate because of my experience, and it was a pretty easy transition actually to just step into doing it on my own. The hardest part is getting through the early phases because we were growing. We've averaged 78% growth. That's our
Wow.
average growth rate per year since the beginning. And you'd think that most of that would be early phases, but that's not true. It's been
Yeah.
fair. It's just there had been huge ups and downs throughout there, but it's been fairly consistent
Yeah.
through the whole sort of thing. Well, those early years, you're tiny.
Yeah.
So we went from tiny to doubled, and we're still tiny, and then we doubled, and so during those early phases, I had to work for for
Yeah.
money, because but Zenbivy itself was always profitable as long as I didn't pay myself
Yeah.
for it from the very beginning. So it was fairly easy to keep it going as long as I was able to get sort of income elsewhere. And then basically from COVID, I stopped that I had a couple of contracts that I was doing during COVID that I lost like
Yeah.
that much in COVID. And um, that's when I started full time, I guess, on Zenbivy, March of 2020. And knock on wood, it's been
Yeah.
going good since. So
I think it's like one of my assistants that helps me shoot every once in a while. He finally is about to go full time, and he was kind of thanking me a little bit because I kept telling him, like, I was like, "Hey, you get to a certain point, and now you're putting time into something else. So you realize you're going to have 8 hours." For him, it was a full time job, 8 hours a day. So he's like, "Man, I have 40 hours a week extra that I can now pour into advertising, calling clients, getting jobs and stuff." And he was like, "Man, I'm just gonna go for it." I think it's so hard for some people to go all in. Plus, you have, like you said, you got to learn a zillion different things because you might be an expert at one thing, but you might not be an expert at the accounting part of it. And until you grow large enough, you don't have an accounting person, and you're the accounting person hoping that hoping that the IRS is not knocking at your door because you're doing it wrong, you know?
Right.
So so how large is your team right now?
There are 7 of us. Depends on how you count. 2 of those
Yeah,
7
yeah.
are part-time, and then we have 2 other contractors, a PR person and a QA person who work for us on contract, but we're a smaller portion of
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
So I guess 7 to 9 of us. And in Bellingham, there are 3 of them.
Yeah.
And Cal Kiley over there. So we were always digital by design, and only about a little over a year ago did we open up the Bellingham facility for design and development, and our distribution is in Boise. So so there is no distribution employees. There's probably, if you count our team down in Verde is our distribution partner, there's probably 2 or 3 other dedicated Zenbivy down there.
Okay.
But technically employees of ours. So, but the core team is 7 of us.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is really a small group to run a business like this. But when you're just focused on direct to consumer, it's focusing on direct consumer has made our just life a lot easier,
Yeah.
because there's a bunch of stuff that you have to deal with when you have a much more diverse distribution.
Mhm.
Is you just don't have
Yeah.
pricing, and I don't worry about the lowest price being on Amazon. We're not on Amazon.
Yeah.
Although you can sometimes find us on Amazon. Amazon now will show your brand
Yeah.
and then like send it over there. So like, because people come to Amazon, and
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're just linking to our store through Amazon and buying. And I don't know why they're doing that pilot program. Eventually
Yeah.
they
I
want us
just
on
found that
there.
out. I just
Yeah.
found that out a couple of days ago. I was trying to get like an 1/8" foam pad, and I was like, well, let me quickly see if it's because someone to give me a gift card on Amazon for my birthday. So I was like, okay, well, let me use that. And this was like only like 3 or 4 days ago, and it was like a Gossamer Gear like 1/8" pad, and I was like, I click on it, and then it takes me to Gossamer Gear's website, and I was like, oh, I wanted to buy it through Amazon, and then I was like, how? Why is it? So I had no idea that was a new thing
Probably.
either.
See, what happened, I think, is Amazon has recognized people are going to Amazon and typing in these brand names or
Yeah.
looking for these products that aren't selling on Amazon, and they want to have you going there first for basically everything.
Yeah.
But and so for right now, all they do is send business to, I guess, to Zenbivy and Gossamer Gear, and maybe down the road they would want to do something else. We could opt out. Once
Okay.
I clicked on it, I was like, what is it you're doing? If we didn't want to be shown there, we could tell them, yeah, don't show us there. But
Yeah.
we looked at it, like, I guess why not? If you're there,
Yeah.
it just makes it feel like you're on Amazon. And maybe that's what they're,
Yeah.
trying to,
Yeah. Making everybody feel like they just got to shop on Amazon no matter what, even if
right,
you don't get it
right.
through there.
But they
Um,
don't, for us, it's like, what value do they add? The real reason our customers say they want to go to Amazon is to get a lower price.
yeah.
Or I can give you a lower price without bringing Amazon and
Yep.
getting Amazon involved.
Yeah.
So
I hear
Amazon
so many
makes
nightmares.
from.
I hear nightmares on nightmares from clients because I shoot for a lot of like smaller little Amazon products here and there. And one of my clients, we were at SHOT Show in Vegas, and we went out to dinner, and he was just telling me how much Amazon, the cut they take, and the whole headache and process. And he goes, man, if I could do it all over again, he said he would somehow try to do it outside of Amazon, even though his product really is hard to do that. But he was like, man, if there's a way to not do it, because it's just when he told me, I was like, I'm never going to sell anything on Amazon if I create a product that I'm trying to
Yeah,
create
you have
right
to
now.
have a Amazon strategy. Like for
Yeah.
us, our strategy is that for us not to be selling on
Yeah.
Amazon. But if you're the more powerful, I guess, you become as a brand, the better deal you can negotiate when
Yeah.
you step onto the platform. I think one of the issues is people get onto the Amazon platform and there is a certain amount of volume that it
Yeah.
sort of generates, and then they feel like they can't get off of that
Yeah.
volume.
Yeah.
Uh, if they
It's the-
want to just say no, now we are want to run our business this way, so it feels like the tail wagging the dog a little bit, and people
Yeah.
control. And like I don't want to, so one of my experience, because I have this experience doing all this wholesale and
Yeah.
whatnot, like God, a lot of that is not in your control. The disadvantage of the direct to consumer were those early years I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Tiny, still tiny, still tiny, still tiny, still tiny.
Yeah.
Trying to kind of scrape things together. But I think honestly, that's the only way to build an idea that's this sort of insane compared
Yeah.
to the because we basically are a new kind of we say sleeping bag. It's not a bag at all, but it's a new
Yeah.
kind of sleeping bag, and um it's not a mummy bag, and it's not a quilt, and it's
Yeah.
not these other sort of things. So you have to earn that one at a time.
Yeah.
People got to get in there and say, does this really kind of work? And so fortunately now we've grown to this point where there's enough people out there that we don't have to, explain it to you myself, right?
Yeah.
There's other people out there that's like, I tried it, and
So would
this is
you so would you say like slow growth has probably been not slow growth because the percentage you told me was a lot, but like slow growth is probably better than fast growth for most companies, even though you want fast
the
growth.
organic growth and recognizing that middlemen aren't the customer. So if you're working with retailers are middlemen,
Yeah.
and um, in the outdoor industry, we think of them as the customer. The trade show's called outdoor retailer, but the retailers really aren't the customer. And I think that's the mind shift.
Yeah.
Is like you want to create, I believe, authentic relationships directly with the customer.
Yeah.
And if the middleman can help, great. As long as you keep your eye on the ball, that a point of
Yeah.
partnering with this middleman is because I want to create a direct relationship with the customer. So if the retailer or the partner is creating a barrier to that, then I don't think it's in your best interest, because you lose control of everything. Well, I bought it from this retailer and I hate it, and so now I'm gonna go out and write a bunch of bad reviews. I'm gonna
Yeah.
make a video of me crying and put it on TikTok, or I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. And you're not really in control. You're like, who's this person
Yeah.
ever?
You never have a connection to be able to help that person. They just
Right.
assume that it's garbage when you're like, maybe it was they didn't use it right, or maybe it wasn't fit for them or whatever, and you can explain it to them and stuff. I
You're
mean, yeah.
you're cold and your Zenbivy bed at the comfort rating. We do a limit rating and a
Yeah.
comfort rating. The comfort rating is 10 degrees higher. Um, then there's something not right.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like, generally, the mistake is that people will make. The biggest issue is the mattress.
Yeah.
People don't recognize how important the mattress is, and how the R values that is being sold is like 3 season and 4 season. They need to be
Mhm.
warmer than what that is. R3
Yeah.
is summer. R4 is shoulder,
Yeah.
and R5 and R7 is like winter.
Yeah.
But it's not what sort of, so that's the biggest one if people are cold. The other one is too small. Sometimes people will buy one that is too small, and they'll, feel like if they're complaining about drafts,
Yeah.
oftentimes it's like, well, how tall are you? And what they're trying to make it lighter and get something that's sort of too small. But generally,
Yeah.
if fit correctly, but there are a certain number of people who are just cold sleepers and need
Yeah.
a warmer quilt. So, yeah. So we make sure, like,
Okay.
if you bought it's like, can you return your 35-degree quilt? Well, no, not really. But we also don't leave people hanging out there.
Yeah.
So generally, if somebody comes, it's like, what do they have to complain about? I was cold. Nobody complains that they're not more comfortable.
Yeah.
Mummy bag, right?
Yeah.
Because I think pretty much even the mummy bag lovers would say, well, yeah, Zenbivy is more comfortable,
Yeah.
a little bit more or
Yeah.
whatever, so people sort of concede that sort of fact.
Yeah.
So,
That's
um,
cool. Okay, so I have one last question for you, and then let me ask this question first, because I love asking this because a lot of people who listen to this are not just looking for outdoor gear, but they're maybe in the outdoor industry themselves and they're creating a product or they have a product out right now. So what advice would you give to someone at the trailhead, of their own outdoor business dream? Maybe someone who's starting a business or is in their business, what kind of will one piece of advice be for them?
I guess I would say that it's doable, right? There's whatever it is that you don't need to um, go out and find a bunch of money to get it done, right?
Yeah.
You do it in your basement without any money. You don't need to invest generally a lot
Yeah.
money into getting yourself up and running. You can get yourself up and running and test the idea in with very little spend.
Yeah.
And you could run our whole business, right, that we run today is scaled from when we started. I used to run ad campaigns for $10 on Facebook,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to put $10 in that one and see how it does.
Yeah.
And then if it does okay, then I'll put 10 more dollars, and
Yeah.
basically how we did it. Um, and it's all very doable. If
Yeah.
you believe in the product and you think the product is works, it is doable. You do need to think about scalability and
Yeah.
where it's all going and how the business is going to ultimately make money. But for a lot of people, that all is relatively secondary. Like when I started, I was like, I got to run a business and I got to retire here. I got,
Yeah.
financial goals.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people who are just getting started, it's like, I just want to make this
Yeah.
and, do it profitably,
Yeah.
not making a lot of money, but I want to make this and not lose money.
Yeah.
Make some money. That's so possible now. The way that the world works, you can get it going, and you can, as long as there's free internet, you have a fair shot at the customer
Yeah.
compared to everyone else.
Yep.
And don't need any middleman between you and them. There's ways to just go out there and connect with those people directly. And if you're in the making camp gear, the audience wants it.
Yep.
If you've got a great idea, you're going to be marketing to a bunch of people not who are like, all right, I'll look at your idea or whatever. They want to see your idea.
Yes.
So it's even easier to get it in front of them because if your idea is great, people want to see it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great advice.
Again, and get out there and, get it going. If you're worried
Yeah.
about it, you can email me and I'll tell you how simple it is to kind of get it started. Start your $29 Shopify store. If you don't
Yeah.
know how to do the website, it's just putting pictures in the boxes.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You can do it.
I used to do a lot of work with a lot of underprivileged kids, and they would complain about, not complain, but they would just say, like, I don't have a way out of where I am. And I'd be like, guys, and I would literally show them their phone and be like, you guys have the entire world right here. And if you just, go online and find something you're interested in doing, you can make a name for yourself. You can do something with your life based on just learning things on YouTube or, uh, sky's the limit, like you're saying. And you can do it a little bit at a time.
Connect with, and there's avenues to do things now that were just much more difficult before. It's not
Yeah.
like it was impossible, but uh, I feel like somewhere around the time where I started, it really reached a point where you know, anybody in their basement can now do this.
Yeah.
COVID actually kind of helped because now everyone's used to seeing everyone in their basement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like we see the news people in their pails sitting in their kitchen and
Yeah.
whatever. And so a lot of those barriers have sort of fallen down that we operated for 7 years without a physical location, which was about 5 years too long, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But it's possible. Like
Yeah.
before, the room out here was filled with boxes, but if they if it- it's it's very doable, and you don't need to go sell your soul to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You can start small. Generally, if you can figure out a way to make and build the thing you're wanting to make and build,
Yeah.
um, the getting it out in front of people and selling it is very scalable and cost effective
Yeah.
these days. So
Well, that's cool. Well, I guess going into this now, is there anything like new that you guys are coming out with, or any crazy ideas in the works? I know you've got all kinds of ideas. I saw you doing a tent a while back, and stuff like that. And I know you've probably got all kinds of things in the works, but anything new with Zenbivy that
yeah,
you can tell people about?
there's tent. That's a kind of our pet project going on for next year. Um, we're going to be offering new downs. So we were the first to bring Muscovy down to the
Uh-huh.
market. I don't know if you know what that is,
Yep.
but
I know what that is. Yeah.
next year in fact, just in the last 2 days, we've launched Muscovy with Expa Dry, and then
Okay.
next year we're going to do an even higher loft Muscovy down in our
Yeah.
lines, or ultra, and we're going to be doing a synthetic high end. If you don't like, if you're allergic to down,
Yeah.
or want to be part of the food chain associated with down,
Yeah.
we're really an ultralight and a light bed. The coolest new ideas for next year, though, are in pillows. We have a new pillow. Here's your,
Oh, sweet.
that's the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's
Ah,
so it uses
little sneak
uh,
peek.
there's your sneak peek of next year's pillow as a new case that basically you load through the bottom like that. And so it makes it light and comfortable.
Yeah.
We've been using all of our pillows from the outset have been multi-layer, like a squishy soft layer on the
Yeah.
top, like an air layer. And so this kind of builds upon that. So new pillows for next year, and next year, new ways to connect to use a Zenbivy with um, overland type vehicles. So
Ah, okay.
we now have sheets and double quilts that will work with rooftop tents and van conversions and campers and that
Oh,
whole
that's cool.
kind of thing. So which has been a miss for us in the past is a lot of people want to use their Zenbivy like in their van or on their
Yeah.
rooftop tent or whatever, and it's not like a perfect sort of fit. So we'll be doing that next year too.
That's
So
cool. And
horizon.
the Expedrive, that's the gold
Yeah,
stuff, right?
I envision it's like a leprechaun that goes
Yeah.
around and like sprinkles gold particles. It literally is something like that. Not the leprechaun,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, gold particles, and it's not a DWR. It's not a chemical.
Yeah.
Allied, and what it does is it prevents water vapor from condensating in the down plume. And so it makes condensation not want to turn into water in the down plume.
I
And
gotcha.
which really is what reduces your down um, loft over time, is
Yeah.
not that your down gets wet. People will figure out, we've talked about down for a long time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
get your down bag wet. This whole
Yeah.
idea that synthetic is better than down is not work it. And I'm launching synthetics next year. You can buy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Down is better in wet weather.
Yes.
Especially down is really good against water because it's very hard to get. You could take your sleeping bag and throw it in a lake and
Yep.
just pick it up and shake it off, and it will not get water. Your
Yeah.
synthetic bag soak up water like a sponge, but your down bag is not going to be wet.
Yeah.
In that. what reduces the loft over time. So the cool thing about Expedry is that there's no chemical. It's not a DWR. There's no anything sort of PFAS chemical being used in it. It's permanent, and but it allows it to dry. How you can really tell is if you get it wet, it dries a lot faster.
faster.
And what that means also is when you're getting like those humid nights, and it's like, oh, it's raining and it's humid in the morning, and I got up and I, shoved my humid sleeping bag day after day after day after packed in or whatever, that can kind of reduce your loft, and it resists that kind of thing. One quick tip while I have you before I go though, since I'm talking about that, if you want your sleeping bag to not, if you're on a longer trip and it's like day after day, you're not able to dry it out and you're afraid it's like damp and it's raining after day, the best thing you can do is right after you wake up in the morning and your sleeping bag is warm from your body, take it and squish all of that air out of it. Right when you get up and squeeze all of that warm, moist air out of there, and it will suck in cooler, drier air into it as you're sitting there, doing your thing. And then when you go to pack it up, you've eliminated a lot of the moisture that you, just from, sort of sleeping in it kind of thing. That can really
that's a
help
great tip.
mitigate it over time and try and keep moisture out of the bag, because most of the moisture that's getting in your bag is coming, from you, right? And the condensation in the air around you kind of thing. So
my wife always wakes up and she's like, why is my bag wet? And I'm like, because you're breathing inside of the bag, sweetie. It's all that humidity. So okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna just go over a couple of rapid fire questions really quick. These will be really, really quick questions. They're literally just like snippets. And then from there, I'll just let you kind of just let everybody know where we can find you, even though everybody kind of knows where they can find you, I'm sure. So, all right, first question is favorite national park?
these are not quick and easy. Those are hard. I say Olympic.
Okay. What's is it tent, hammock, or just cowboy camping? What was your preference? The tent. All right. Worst trail snack you've ever tried?
Salt biscuits, which was something that my wife and I made, and we put in like 5 times the salt that was supposed to be, and that's all we had. It was just like,
Did you do it instead of, it was supposed to be teaspoons and you put tablespoons or something like that? Is that what you did?
Where they were like almost just inedible from the they were all we had.
So I guess the next question, you probably answered it from your favorite national park, but mountains, forest, desert, or coast?
Coast.
All right, next one, early bird or night owl?
Oh, night owl for sure.
Yeah. Is that camping night owl or is that just at home night owl or both?
All.
Always.
Yeah, I'm the one, if there's a fire, I'll just stay up till, Yeah, we'll stay her up or later, too late kind of thing, and then hard to get in the morning. Yeah.
All right, what's a biggest splurge you've made for your business?
God.
That one's a hard one.
That is a hard one, because we don't splurge really on anything. Oh, maybe, I guess the biggest splurge would be that we do all Mac computers for everybody, all high-end Macs, and the nice monitors. We don't we buy top-end computer people sit on and look at all day long. So I guess in a lot of businesses they call that a splurge, whereas I see that it's like, well, we're not going to cheap out. You look at the monitor, right?
Oh, the quality is awesome. And I'm a little biased because I used to work for Apple for about 3 years teaching classes and stuff. And so I'm all Mac'd out for the rest of my life too. So
I mean, you think a lot of places that I just remember a lot of places I worked just working on like, the 486. That's how old I am. The spinning and the tray and the micro and Vista and the whole, sort of thing there. It's like, I feel like we just are, with employees, you pay an employee whatever you pay an employee, and how much does a really nice MacBook cost, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I don't know, if you give them a MacBook, they'll take it home. Yeah, they take it
Yeah.
home, do work there, whatever. So we buy MacBooks if people want them, and we
Yeah.
buy MacBooks. They're $3,000 or whatever,
Yeah.
and last for
For
3, 4
a
years.
long time. Yeah.
Compared to the cost of an employee, it's like it's so we basically try and provide everybody, exactly what they want, even if it's a
That's
little
great.
more, just so that people, you want
Yeah.
to take pride in your work. And to me,
Yeah.
that's a
True.
you really need to just it's expensive compared to what you could do it for, I suppose, but just in terms of the satisfaction for employees and wanting to work on nice
Yeah.
machines.
Treating them
Um,
right.
yeah.
All right. Two last questions. One is, one's a one word, just kind of one, and the other one's a little bit explanation. But what's one word you'd use to describe the outdoor industry right now? It can be two words if you need two words. Changing.
Changing. I think this is the biggest change in well, in when I think of the outdoor industry, I'm thinking of backpacking, right? And sleeping bags and specialty kind of goods. And the outdoor industry is obviously much broader than that. But
Yeah.
this most fundamental changing period, certainly in my whole career, where it feels like there's two worlds that are operating almost unaware
Yeah.
of one another. um, and I kind of see it because I feel like I stepped out of one and sort of into the other at sort of the right time. But, um, this thing with, retail is going to shake out, you
Yeah.
know. I tell people all the time, if you want to go backpacking, my God, don't go to like, I won't say the name of them, but don't go to
Yeah.
like retail store or whatever
Yeah.
you're up with. You really want to kind of, I send people to YouTube channels,
Yeah.
right? And I say, look at this, check out these reviews, look at this thing here.
Yeah.
A little bit of advice. They're not that expertise for our level thing is not it. That's where that's happening is sort of changing.
Yeah.
And the retail world, I think, has been the base of the outdoor um market, I suppose, feels like it's very much off the back right
Yeah.
now. And it's not going to die. I mean, but it's going to have to reinvent itself. It could be a very exciting, here's my hopeful prediction that the next 10 years is one of the most exciting times for outdoor retail
Yeah.
because they finally accept the fact that they're not the customer and they're the middleman. And so they start focusing on doing that better and provide some benefit
Yeah.
that they're not providing right now. So
Yeah.
I think that things are gonna, have to move in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
it's
I
an
agree.
exciting time, I think, to be into these types of things because there's just an awful lot of change coming, and there's avenues like we talked about before for people with new ideas to get those new ideas pushed forward in a
Yep.
way couldn't before, because you can take that message directly out now.
Yep. Oh yeah. I 100% agree with you. That's why we're starting to do gear reviews in this same set. Is we shoot all these products, and I'm like, there's a lot of products that I realized there's not even a review for, and people just need some honest reviews of things. And I had a police officer come into my house maybe like 2 months ago. My alarm went off, and I ended up rushing home. And he walked around my house, clearing the house, and then he walked into my studio space, and he goes from really intense to, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh," I told him what I do, and then he was like, "All I do is spend." He does covert search and rescue stuff and all kinds of high weird op stuff. And he was telling me about the gear that he has, and he says he spends nothing but time on YouTube watching gear reviews and everything. And he goes, "I buy everything off of the gear reviews that I see." And I told him, I was like, "I'm about to start doing gear reviews on here because there's a lot of products I can't find a gear review for, um, or an honest gear review for too. And outside of being able to try it out in the store, you really can't try out a lot of products." So No, yeah, I send everybody to YouTube too. I'm like, hey, check this out. I'll tell you what to buy, but go and watch this or read this and learn about it too. So
Yeah, it's great. I mean, people want to, before you used to be able to go into the store and see it. So there definitely is like when you're watching somebody else show it to you, it's not quite as great as them handing it to you
yeah,
and telling you about it while you're holding
yeah,
it sort of in your hand. But, um, there's when you're really passionate about the things that you're, doing, like people, when they go backpacking, it's like, I'm putting together a system here that's
yeah,
like, about me and how I want to, you know, pursue this and
yeah,
live out there. And so a lot of people give it a lot of thought. And so the more you can see, like if I was going to, like buy something or whatever, I'll watch every video that's on YouTube,
yeah,
right? If there's, unless it's like, Apple Watch or something where it's like there's,
yeah,
100 videos out there. But in specialty gear, it's like any little angle or tidbit of info, especially well considered, um, is really helpful, and it's always adds value to hear it from people who didn't make it,
yeah,
because it's like, the obviously the
yeah,
people who made it love it, right?
yeah,
You're not going to go to the Zenbivy
yeah.
site, see me going, well, I don't know, we did our best, kind of crappy, but I don't know, people are buying. I don't know, we don't do,
Yeah,
no, you know,
exactly.
so yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of cool in that those communities exist,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which I think is great because we were talking about how it affects the business, but what's really affecting the business is that the community is able to engage now in ways that the community wasn't able to engage before when there was
yeah,
just magazines and trade shows or whatever, and it's that level of engagement that's really sparking all of it,
yeah,
right? Allowing guys like me, we're like, I worked in the industry all these years and now everyone's engaging in this new way and we
yeah.
can now it's like extremely exciting. So
That's cool. Well, awesome. Well, no, Mike, thank you so much for, I mean, all the insight on your product and how you run your business and stuff like that. I could sit here and talk for another 2 hours about questions I have, of course. Um, but I'm sure we'll be working together a little bit more in the future still too. And if people are looking for Zenbivy products or any information, where can they find you? What's like website, Instagram, all that good
best
stuff?
place is zenbivy.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, but the best place to really go and figure out who we are and what we do is um, zenbivy.com.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And eventually I'll come out with a review on whatever the product I have from you guys too, so I can show people a little bit. I'm going to throw some pictures in this podcast too. So everybody, if you're listening, if you're watching, you'll be able to see kind of what we were talking about and stuff like that. If you're listening, you'll have to go to zenbivy.com and check them out.
What
But
is this weird sheet that they talked about that's
yeah,
on there?
yeah.
Yeah. Or after they said it looks strange. What we hear again.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
Mike, thank you
So
so
much
much.
for having me.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And everybody, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe on everything that we do here. And we can't wait to have the next guest on. And Mike, thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it.